This is that area that had just had water bleeding out of it that I could not really stop, and I couldn't ditch it. But the weather's changed enough that the water's come out of the ground. I'm actually putting water into it now above that apple tree. I'm irrigating over here, and I'm going to continue to do so. But now is the time that I can start to dig a little bit more to figure out, is there really a well down in there? This ground, as I think I've often said, makes such a change. It gets to be like, well, much harder than that, like cement. And it does it very quickly. And it's hard to get it to go back, any of it, to that pudding condition. But now it's time to irrigate. It's too wet out there. It's wet, really too wet. And here it's gone too dry. The end of that zonia has actually gone dry. Same with the one below it. So I'll introduce water. I've been doing that going up this hill too. I'll show you as I see. Now I'm moving the water to the left again, whereas most of the spring I got it here, and then I was taking it back the other way in order to build the ditches, the zonias, while the ground was soft. There, I opened it up a little bit more, and when I come back to take the pigs back, that's usually about noon. It will have filled all of that. It doesn't mean it would have made the ground soft yet, but it would have started. And I can tell that this zonia is actually going to go out, around, and then come across like that somehow. Eventually, when the ground's soft enough and I have the right amount of water. That's where I was. I'm moving up the hill. You see, this zonia has gone dry out that way. It was bringing water from there toward me and past me all spring. But now I'm going to use the zonia to run water back the other way. Since it's level, I can do that. And I'm going to go see what I can do about getting a better supply here. Yes, I can definitely supply water that way. You see it's running to my right, away from the apple tree, and it's coming to a place where I'm just dropping it to the next zonia down. What I'll do is I'll shut this off, or maybe move it. I think I'll probably just shut this. I'll either shut it off, or else I'll just give it a less of an outlet over a little ways. I'll probably shut it off. There, I shut it off. That took all of 10 seconds to do. Now the water's stopped here, and it'll start backing up and then going out that way, and also moisten the area over there a little bit more. Well, I'm going to move on up, see what's going on here. This, you see, is a new zonia. I had a wet spot which I managed to cross when everything would take your boots right off. And now I didn't extend it that way today, but I did this way. But this is new territory. I'm not just, and I'm heading toward that apple tree area, which has now gone dry. Shall I put a hatch in here in the end? I think not. I think I'm going to leave this one blocked all around and let it fill, because it'll be easy enough then to come along here. This ground is, the difference between that ground and this ground is irrigation. What has filled that is this accidental hatch. I don't think I did that on purpose. That's where that water supply has been coming from on the surface. So I'll look to the next zonia up now, see what it's doing. You see, the irrigating water now from the trench royal is doing its work in a lot of places. I'm irrigating. I shut that natural hatch, the one that developed by itself through my inaccuracies. I shut it off, and I worked on the end of it now so it can go that way some. But I've opened up just a little bitty hatch here so I can soften the ground ahead of myself right there as I go with that new Zanja. I'm going to continue out this one now. Maybe shut the end off, probably shut the end off. I'm going to attempt to give you an overview here. It's hard with this narrow angle field of vision camera that I've got. But anyway, I've got plenty of water coming here into that jungle, which is what this looked like before this spring. There's that apple tree. And I'm basically turning it now mostly back. That I've been doing all along. What's new is I'm also irrigating here and turning it to the right, because that I've managed to get dry, and I don't want to get too dry. But you can see, you can easily imagine the terraces developing. One of my pigs has promptly decided that would make a nice wallow. Don't blame her. So now I'll head out along. This technique should be getting familiar. I've opened up a very small hatch whose purpose is to soften that ground ahead of that Zanja. I'm going to leave that open on the end because everything's irrigated pretty much below it. But when I'm back here next, I'll probably add another 10 feet or so, Zanja feet, to that Zanja. The ground will be softer by then, and little by little, that's how I develop dry ground. Just a few steps on, I came to this, which is one that I had done earlier, and it hasn't been running water for a while. But a couple, and I must have done that in order to soften the ground ahead of that Zanja. But I wanted to show you how there's enough clay in this ground that it has a memory. It's like it has a water memory. It doesn't go immediately dry like sand would. Although it does tend to get very quickly hard. The pigs, they tend to do this, of course, and I easily just cast that to the lower side. It's easily done. Eventually they stop when the Zanja, or in this case the trench royal, is wide enough. It really doesn't matter. I mean, you can, well, it's a whole different situation, but I've got that to clear out, and looks like one up there. The pigs have been up here and they've muddied the water ahead of me, but you can still see the tadpoles. Frogs are still at it. They like it. Well, up here closer to the woods, the temperature's lower, and so here they're hard. It affects it. I mean, it's warmer, I think, actually in the spring, so they're sooner, and then they keep doing their thing a little later in the spring as it gets hot. The aqueduct is dry. So is the saddle ponds, is I guess what I'm calling them, on either side from leakage. It's dry because Grandpa Jim Biss is dry, and I'm not going to even walk up it because I know what the issue is. The water coming out of the mountain has slowed up enough that little leaks shut the whole thing down. And I'm not going to go up there and fix those leaks until I have the right material and a little bit of time. And then that'll be a good time to really work on it. That may be a few days from now.